My father has always been a good witness. I mean this in the specific technical sense. He is composed on the stand, he answers questions with the measured pace of someone who is thinking carefully, he maintains eye contact with whoever is speaking to him, and he has a quality of conviction in his voice that registers as credibility even when the content does not merit it. I had grown up inside that quality. I knew every frequency of it. I had spent 37 years watching rooms full of people believe him before they had any reason to. He adjusted the microphone when he sat down. He stated his name, he looked at his attorney, and he began. What followed was 22 minutes of testimony so cleanly constructed, dates that were precise but wrong, conversations rendered in detail that had not happened, a version of events with its own internal consistency and its own emotional logic, that I remember thinking at minute 14 that he might have started to believe it himself. That somewhere in the 9 months since he filed the claim, he had told the story so many times to so many people that the story had calcified into something he now inhabited rather than performed. Iris was writing on her legal pad. She did not look alarmed. She had not looked alarmed since the day I had described the phone call to her across her desk, which told me something about what she was holding and what she intended to do with it. My name is Simone. I am 37 years old, and I own an event catering business that I built over 8 years from a commercial kitchen license, a folding table, and a client list that started at 2 and is now at 47. The business is profitable in the specific way that things become profitable when you have reinvested every dollar that was not immediately necessary back into the infrastructure, and it is mine in the specific way that things are yours when you have made every decision about them, carried every risk associated with them, and been the last person awake the night before every major event for the better part of a decade. My father contributed $20,000 at the beginning. He gave it to me in the first month of operation when I was renting the kitchen by the hour and didn't yet know if any of it was going to work. He said he believed in what I was doing. He said he wanted to help. He said, and I remember this exactly because I remember most things my father says, having spent a lifetime tracking the gaps between the saying and the later remembering. He said, "This is yours, Simone. This is a gift. I don't want anything back except to see you succeed." I had him sign a gift letter, not because I doubted him in that moment, I didn't, not yet, but because I was dealing with a lender at the time who required documentation of the source of startup funds and needed confirmation that the money was not a loan that would count against my debt-to-income ratio. The gift letter was a requirement of the financing process. Leonard had signed it in front of a notary without hesitation. That letter had been in a file folder in my office for 8 years when his claim arrived. I sat in my kitchen on a Tuesday morning in February, and I read the claim, and I understood 3 things very quickly. First, my father had not told his attorney about the gift letter because an attorney who knew about the gift letter would not have filed this claim. Second, Leonard had decided that the gift letter would not present a problem for a reason I did not yet understand. Third, the claim had a verbal partnership theory attached to it, which meant that even with the gift letter, Leonard intended to testify that a separate oral agreement had existed and superseded the written document. He was going to say it under oath. He was going to sit in a chair and look at a judge and say that a conversation had happened that did not happen. I thought about the phone call. 3 months before the claim was filed, Leonard had called me on a Tuesday evening. I had answered because I answer his calls, or I did then, with the complicated dutifulness of an adult child who has not yet finished the work of setting limits. The call had been 44 minutes long. We had discussed the business. He had raised it, as he sometimes did, in the half-proprietary way he had developed in the years since the business became visible enough to be talked about in the family. He had used the word gift more than once. He had said at one point, with a directness that surprised me, "I don't have any claim on what you've built, Simone. This is yours." He then asked if he could help him out. a sum of money framed as a loan, which he needed for a reason he described in general terms. I had said I wasn't in a position to do that. The call had ended without resolution. I had recorded it because I had been recording calls with my father for 2 years. I want to explain why, because the why matters. 3 years before that call, Leonard had told my aunt, in the specific confiding tone he uses when he is building a case against you in the court of the family, that in a conversation I had had with him, I had said certain things about my mother that I had not said. He had rendered a version of a conversation that was unrecognizable to me, and that my aunt had believed because she had no reason not to. I had spent 6 months managing the consequences of that misremembering, and at the end of those 6 months, I had downloaded a call recording application and enabled it for calls from his number. Not as a strategy, as protection from a pattern. I retold all of this to Iris across her desk on a Thursday morning in March. She asked me to describe the call before she listened to it. I described it. She put on headphones, and I watched her face for 44 minutes. When she took the headphones off, she was quiet for a moment, which told me more than her words would have. Then she said, "He filed this claim 6 weeks after you declined to give him money. Did you know that?" I had not known the precise timing. I knew the approximate sequence. What the precise timing meant, Iris said, was that the claim had not been filed as a calculated legal strategy following careful review of the documentation and a belief that a legitimate claim existed. It had been filed in the aftermath of a phone call that had not gone the way he wanted. Anger does not do research. Anger files the claim and expects the documentation to yield to the force of its certainty. The gift letter had not seemed like an obstacle to him because he had not believed I would use it against him in a room that mattered. I had been his daughter for 37 years. Daughters, in his experience, absorbed. They did not produce notarized documents in courtrooms. He had not been in a room with Iris before. She filed the motion to admit the recording into evidence. Leonard's attorney objected, as Iris had anticipated. The objection was overruled. Our state is a single-party consent state for call recording, which means that a recording made by a participant in a call is legally obtained regardless of whether the other participant knew they were being recorded. Leonard had told the truth in a state where the truth, once captured by a participant, stays captured. Leonard's attorney, Iris told me afterward, had not been informed about the October call. She noted his expression when the motion was filed. The week before the hearing, Leonard called me. I let it go to voicemail. He left a message. I am not going to transcribe it here because it belongs to the category of things I have heard from him so many times that the content is less significant than the function. It was the speech he gives when he needs to reestablish the terms of the relationship, the one about sacrifice and what he had done for me, and the ways I had failed to recognize what I owed him. I had heard versions of it at 17 and 22 and 29 and 34. The words shifted, the architecture was always the same. I listened to it once, in my kitchen at 7 in the morning while my son ate cereal at the table and told me about something his friend had said at recess. I saved the voicemail. I did not let my expression change, and I did not let my son see anything in my face that he would need to ask questions about. I had spent 8 years building something with my own hands, partly because I had needed to prove to myself that my life did not have to be structured around what I owed Leonard. The business had been the proof. Now I was going to sit in a courtroom and watch a recording say it for the record. The hearing was on a Wednesday.